So moving into the race weekend, we actually had, like Alex alluded to earlier, we had a lot of drama in the free practice sessions and the qualifying session, but it all started off with a bit of a technical error. So I was quite happy. I had Friday off. I don't have many Fridays off. And I was like, yes, I can sit down and watch 2 hours of Formula One. I can watch the Friday, the Saturday. It's going to be great. I'm just going to miss the race itself. And I sat down with a cup of tea in one hand and some biscuits in the other hand. And I was greeted with silence and beautiful scenic shots of the Grand Prix circuit. It is a very beautiful place. The people who live there are very lucky, aren't they? Let's be honest. They've got some of the best seats in the house. They were climbing all over their roof during the race, which was great considering it had been pouring down. So I'm not sure how safe that was, but we'll brush that aside.
Did you see the picture of the kids on the trampoline looking onto the track?
Yeah, absolutely. How cool is that? Makes me really jealous. But Friday, practice 1, there was no on board. And there was no onboard footage, and it took a while for them to actually have any footage of the action at all. I think for the first 5 or 6 minutes, it was just aerial shots of an empty track. And we heard that some drivers were leaving the pits because the commentators were letting us know that, but there was just no action whatsoever. And there was a technical fault, of course, somewhere down the line, but it affected the broadcast as much as the teams itself. There was loads of technical issues, and just made it very. Yeah, just a bit, I don't know, it made me feel a bit uneasy. Like, we've got so used to having on-track footage and on-board cameras, that's what I meant to say. We got so used to having on-board cameras that actually just watching it from when everything was fixed and we were just watching it from the trackside cameras, how much I missed them. It feels like such a big part of the show, the on-board cameras. Do you know what exactly happened? I have an idea. I don't know if you've looked into it any more.
Well, the story behind it is interesting, and it ties into the way that Formula One has changed in recent years. Because as part of their sustainability plans and the like, they had planned to have more remote operations for Formula One. So a lot of the cutting together of the stuff for broadcast and preparing packages, offering things up to the director, like different onboards and shots, team radios. They basically endeavored to have that set up remotely so that they can easily operate for any race and not have to cart a load of people all the way around the world like they used to in order to organize the broadcast. They've brought all this forward because of the coronavirus. That's encouraged them to bring their plans further forward than they had thought they might. And as I understand what happened is that at Biggin Hill, which is basically in somewhere near London, but that's where they've got their main base of operations for all these remote operations. And there was a power outage there of some kind, which basically caused issues with the radios. Like you mentioned, nobody caught what happened between Perez and Ocon because there was no footage of it. But there's a fascinating video on the official F1 channel where they talk all about the changes that they've made to their remote operations, and it's really interesting. They talk about hundreds and hundreds of terabytes of data being transferred for every race weekend and all the rest of it. It's a fascinating remote operation, but on this particular occasion, it went horribly wrong.
So it wasn't the first weekend they tried it. They've been doing this for a while, it seems.
I think so. Yeah, I think they've been going for like the last year or so. They've been sort of transitioning to these more remote operations, basically, as I understand it.
Yeah. Well, fair play to them for. Yeah, I'm going to watch that after this. But you've mentioned it already. The Perez and was it Perez?
Yeah, it was Perez and Ocon.
Perez and Ocon. We caught the last bit on the trackside camera, just like Perez going for a spin and Ocon pulling over on the side. But it just fascinated me how we've got the pinnacle of motorsport and all this brilliant technology, and yet none of the teams knew what happened. The FIA didn't have a clue what happened. The stewards didn't have a clue what happened. They were just waiting for the drivers to come back to the pen or to the pit lane to confirm what exactly happened, or to hard download the camera's recording from the car essentially into the computer when they got back to the garage to have an understanding of what happened. I just found it so mad that we couldn't get a replay. It just felt really odd. Like we were taking a step back in time, or we couldn't see that part of the track. I put a tweet out during the practice session and how I found it strange how there's not cameras positioned around the whole track to capture every single race moment. And loads of people let me know in the most politest way, like Twitter does, that there are cameras around the track, but not all of them are broadcasting cameras. They're just they're just basically security cameras, or they're run for different events. So the cameras are there, but each race event only has access to a handful amount, or the ones which they need to. Because in the actual race, they've got helicopters, they've got fly cams. I'm not sure they've got drones at the moment, but something they're probably looking into. So they've got all these different types of cameras to capture the whole track. But whereas in practice, obviously, they only had a handful around the track itself.